The next guest on Smarter San Diego TV is the author of From Fears to Freedom and the leader of the H2G revolution. Please welcome to the program for the first time, Shawn Cassidy.
Very nice.
Thank you.
He's here. Shawn, what's up, man?
It's good to see you.
How you doing? Yeah,
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Great
Thank you for having me.
So H2G, the revolution. H2G.
It is a revolution.
I alluded a little bit to what H2G means already in the open of the show, but why don't you tell us what it means and ultimately what it means to you?
Sure. The simplest way to look at it sometimes, people think of H2O to survive. Without it in 3 or 4 days, we're gone, right?
Yeah.
H2G came to me in the middle of the night. It was almost this epiphany, but H2G stands for head, heart, and gut. And an operational definition, if I can share it with you, is probably the best way to share it with the viewers.
Sure.
And essentially what that is, it's to adopt and to inspire people through an H2G, a head, heart, and gut mindset on a daily discipline basis. So it's a mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual mindset. And the whole goal is to develop that daily discipline plan to do the most important thing in our life, build meaningful and trusted relationships.
Yeah.
And people ask, if I may, what's the big why? Why do we do that? We do that so that we can realize growth, happiness, and success, whatever success may be in our lives, Derek.
Right. Yeah, and you've experienced a lot of that, and I want you to tell the story about the eagle here in just a second. But your book, which I've dove into recently, is really interesting. Not just the way that you've punctuated it, which I really like. You write with a lot of emotion. I can tell when you are like, because it's like bold and twice as big a font, which is how I write, so I love it.
Thank you.
But your book is really about everything, from fears to freedom. You're talking about anxiety. People have anxiety about different things. They have fear of failure and things like that. You address all those things. You also address professional items and how to conduct yourself, how to be a leader. There's so much in this one book, and it all revolves around the H2G idea, right?
Absolutely. Fear is something, when we think of our brain, we've got 80 to 100 billion neurons in our brain. And what's amazing to me is 2/3 of every thought that goes through your 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day that go through your head, 2/3 of every thought is somehow related or connected to what? Fear. Fear. Now, fear I may be late, fear I may drop the ball, fear I might not perform at the level of expectation they want me to. A lot of people have that fear. So what's on the other side of fear? Freedom. How do we get there? We have to first identify the fear, understand the fear, manage the fear, and then finally overcome it. And that's the biggest issue that a lot of corporations and companies are facing today. It's that fear of failure, or how am I going to perform at this particular level?
Right. And fear is something that's, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
This is something that you experience, like you said, I'm going to be late. I'm going to miss my appointment. Somebody's going to book the conference room when I've already got it booked. Whatever it may be that's going on. There's fear involved in those types of things.
Absolutely.
But that's not a good place to be. So if 2/3 of our thoughts are like that, then we really have to do some work in order to try to not let it consume us.
Exactly. People are obviously handicapped when fear overcomes them, right? Most of us do well in an easy, stable situation, but we're under deadlines, we're under pressure, we have a chaotic situation. You take our special forces, for example, and they're part of the leadership team that we may get into. They're put under a situation, many times a life and death situation.
Right.
There's a timetable, there's a mission, and it has to be accomplished. If fear overwhelms them, or fear is a big part of their operation, it's doomed for failure. So they know how to take that situation and overcome fear. It's all about freedom. It's all about, the execution, the plan, the mission, and getting it done.
Right.
And to be able to do that for most of us in the work environment, that's a big challenge.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And we'll talk about H2G leadership, because that's a big thing, in the book, and of course what you do in your public speaking and whatnot as well.
Yes.
But I'd love for you to tell us a story about this guy right here. Our other special guest.
Okay, our other special guest. Yeah, this bald eagle, which obviously represents our national bird and our national emblem to represent our country, was given to me as a gift when I graduated at USC in 1981 in undergrad school from my father. And it's just incredible. I've had it this whole time, and it represents actually the logo for the Leadership and Freedom Center. And it's just something that I have, and
it represents the country as well, right?
Absolutely.
Your father was in the military, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yeah, he served 4 tours in Vietnam. for one-year tours, 63, 65, 67, and 1969. So those were extended one-year tours.
How much did that, growing up in that military lifestyle, if you will, because I know from the book, because I've read parts of the book, that you guys moved around a lot. How much did that impact your writing of this book? And I know that it's in there, but how much of that situation growing up caused you to be who you are today, to write this book?
I think of a lot of it. I mean, when you come from a military type background, you have a situation, and particularly with the military, it's a very structured, situation. But family is also number one too. And we learned at a very, very early age that it's your team. We called it Team Cassidy. And you really did. Your team is everything. So you have to rely on each other. You have to build trust within that, within your organization, within your family.
I was going to say, because when you move around a lot, I moved around, not from a military family, just happened to move around a lot. You do have to go through that cycle of sort of recreating relationships, which
Absolutely.
is the foundation of the book.
Absolutely.
Building, meaningful and trusted relationships, right?
Yes.
So when you move, you have to do it all over again. And you have to do it all over again. But the good thing about that, if you happen to be in that situation, is that you get the practice.
Right.
Right? Is
Yeah,
that
absolutely. Yeah, the more you do it, the more you go through it, the better hopefully you're going to be at it, right? If you're committed to
or
it.
the more insight you have on it.
The more insight, right.
Practice makes perfect. at
Absolutely. And it teaches you. There's a term they use in the military. You have to improvise, adapt, and overcome. So when you're put in uncomfortable situations like that, what do you do? How do you improvise? How do you adapt to a certain situation? And then how do you overcome it, right? So that you can cope. Not only cope, but how can you exceed? How can you thrive? How can you do well in that particular environment? And again, it all foundationally comes down to trust. And as you probably recall in the book, there's 7 steps that are referred to building that trusted relationship ladder, Derek. It starts with likability. People say, well, how do you build trust? Well, first you have to understand trust. What's the makeup of trust? It starts with likability. People like working with people they like, right? For the most part. And if we can't get past there, we can't even move up the ladder. And real quickly, and we don't have much time here, then it goes to understanding. We have to understand people. This day and age, we don't take the time to really understand people. Their background, their cultures, their upbringing, their education, their beliefs, right?
Yeah.
Did they grow up the son of a pig farmer in Lee Summit, Missouri? Or did this person grow up in an orphanage, in New York? Tell me a little bit about the background of this person. We have to spend more time knowing and understanding people. So you go from likability to understanding to demonstrating core competency. How important is that? To have the skill set, both intellectual competence and what I refer to as emotional competence, emotional intelligence. We have to understand ourselves, our own self-awareness, as well as the emotions and understanding of other people. If you can't understand that, again, how do you build trust?
Right.
So we go from likability to understanding to demonstrating core competency. I tell people, you can be an Einstein in this world. You can be brilliant. But if you can't articulate it and you can't demonstrate your core competency, what good does it to you? Right? Next ladder is opportunity. What do you do with that opportunity? When you're given that opportunity where somebody likes you, they understand you, you've demonstrated the core competency skills. Now they're going to give you an opportunity. You're either going to knock it out of the park, or you're going to trip and stumble, or you may fail.
Yeah.
The question is, will you be given a second chance opportunity if you drop the ball or if you fail? And many times there's circumstances beyond our control that cause that failure, right? So the question is, how do we deal with that? Where would you and I be here today without a second chance opportunity?
Right.
Meaningful and trusted relationships. If that trust is built, you may be given that opportunity. If not, you won't. And then you go up to respect. And I tell people respect is earned. It's not an entitlement. We have to earn respect.
Absolutely.
Some people think it's a birthright, right? Unfortunately, but it's not. And then ultimately you get to trust. That's the pinnacle. That's where the confidentiality is, the pure integrity is. That's the critical pinnacle that we get to at the end of the day.
Yes.
So once we have that and we understand trust, how do we build it? How do we nurture it? How do we grow it? And that's what we specialize and we focus on with H2G leadership.
Fantastic stuff, Shawn. Thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
And I would encourage everyone to check out this book, From Fears to Freedom. You can find this in a number of different places. It's on Amazon.
Amazon's the best place, right? I have small, there's boutique bookstores and out there, but Amazon is probably the best location, best platform to pick it up.
This is an awesome read. I've skipped around and read different parts of it so far. I'll definitely be reading this entire book. I suggest you do the same. From Fears to Freedom, Conquering Your Fears, Finding Freedom on the Other Side. Shawn Cassidy, thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Great
I
stuff.
appreciate you having me.
Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else, commercial free.